Hey everyone, let's talk results section while I'm making my lunch today. In the results section, you want this to be the space that you present your key findings. This could be the pictures that you have from your microscopes or from your petri dishes or your um, table of statistics that you found, stuff like that. This is the key components of your research being the end product of it. It's not the analysis of it. It's purely objective, which means there's no fluff editing. There's no way for you to say what these results mean. You are just literally reporting the results, almost kind of like a journalist at this point. And rather than presenting all the details at once, it might be a good idea to write a short summary about each data set and put them as headers just like you did in the methods section. And I'll show you an example of this from a research paper that I read recently on nurse sharks. In this section, you want to be as specific as possible because you want this to be kind of like the cold, raw, hard facts of your research. So if you leave out any specifics, then of course this will be the area that will be the least likely to be reassessed in your paper. The reader won't be able to go back and see what you did and understand it. They'll just kind of think you made inferences based on random pieces of data that you saw. It should be one of the easier parts of your research paper to write as long as you use active voice, as in don't use passive voice like I think or even use first person. There's no reason to do that. Instead, you want to be very to the point statements. It's literally a collection of statements, honestly. You're just putting it in paragraph form inside of different sections. So let me show you an example that I have with this nurse shark here. Getting out of here for a second. So this paper looks specifically at the functional morphology of nurse sharks. Nurse sharks are those weird sharks that have weirdly shaped mouths, and they don't necessarily eat like all meat things. They're not like the great whites where they just chomp and tear and flesh and stuff like that. They kind of like have these little sucker things at the bottom. And you can see the results section for this paper starts off with a subsection on the anatomy, just presenting the things that they saw in anatomy, and they immediately have pictures there. What I would do if I were you is I would have a bunch of information explaining your figures in the caption of the picture. So if you're going to post a bunch of microscope pictures, then you'll want to use descriptive language to show what is going on in those pictures there. But this isn't the only thing that they do. They, of course, explain everything right here. Notice that they use very direct language. I'll read this for you. Manipulation of the intact head of Giglomosis striatum, Giglomota, mostoma, something like that. Indicates that when the mandible and hyoid arch are depressed and the palatoclate cartilage protruded, I can't remember how to pronounce that, the distal end of the serothrol moves post-ventrally. That's all very direct language, very active language. There's no thinking about it. It is presenting the cold, hard truths of what is going on. The pictures themselves are also very good, cold, hard truths. And it might not be all pictures at once, it might be spread out into your different sections. This particular group did the motor activity as a separate section in the anatomy, then the suction performance. They even have their graphs and such as another figure, which I would highly advise you to do. Do not incorporate too many things in the same figure. It is okay if you have 10 or 20 figures in the same section. Don't worry about that. It's totally okay. Make sure that your figures are labeled not only with the captions, but your side uh, axes are labeled as well. They put the x-axis on top because they went negative numbers here. Totally fine. Does not matter. They even have um, the evolutionary line of these as a piece of data, which is not something that we can directly see because we're not in the past, but you can infer it. And this is the kind of thing that you can show in the results section. If you are going to infer something in your analysis, you can put the information in the results section, meaning that they put the figure of the evolutionary line of these nurse sharks into the results section, and they will explain it later in the analysis or discussion section. Okay. So this will probably be the section that takes you the longest, only because you're compiling all that data. But you've already been doing that for weeks now. You just have to put it in terms that your readers will see. And this section will least likely be different from the section on the poster, because you are, again, presenting just results. That's it for this video today. The results section, I think, will be challenging, but pretty straightforward, and there's not much more I can do other than say avoid the fluff, avoid the passive voice. Good luck, be smart, email with any questions. I'm burning my lunch. I'll see you later.